10 Cup Show Round 1. This week we will be going through all the action from Round 1, as you'd kind of expect. We'll have a look at Round 2, we'll have a look at the table very briefly, and we'll have a look at, and then we'll preview Round 2 as well, including the very first Ranfurly Shield defence of the season. So yes, there are a few pre-season ones, but they don't really count, do they? Anyway, hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion. And joining me to go through all of the action is Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, good evening, Paul, and good evening to the viewers. Once again, a privilege and a pleasure to be on the TDM and talking about New Zealand's heart and soul game, the Mitre Cup.
Heart and soul game. Oh, you see, you can tell he's on the radio, can't you? He's brilliant. And we can also tell from the jersey that you're wearing. So for those of you on the podcast, Stephen's got his Northland jersey on. So first game up, top versus bottom, or bottom versus top of the country. Southland hosting Northland. The first 25 minutes, it was all Northland, wasn't it? But they couldn't get any points on the board. Was.
Yeah, I suppose from a Northland piece, listen, they'll take the win, but that first half hour or so, a lot of dominance, especially at scrum time, but really just couldn't nail the opportunities that they had in front of them. So credit to their front row. They've certainly packed a couple of big guys, and Corey Te Pata Collier on the tight head side, and Isi Tuangawhasi, younger brother of, and right in the middle there, Jordan Olsen, the skipper, calling all the shots. But it was definitely a dominant area, just a little bit untidy behind the scrum at times. I know Sam Knock at halfback, even though he had that dominance, a couple of times was either caught in possession or had ball knocked away.
Yeah, and so for all that dominance, though, they went in at half-time down 10-6, and you've got to say they really needed to be more clinical in getting some points. But the second half they came out and again dominated for long periods, but Southland managed to keep themselves in it with a turnover, length of the field try. And yes, so a lot of basically Southland totally against the run of play, really, at 17-20 around the hour mark, and was still in this game. And they shouldn't have been, because they had no. The other side had all of it. North managed to pull out the lead in the end. And it was only really the last 5 minutes that Southland got on top, and you often see that from the chasing side, don't you? That basically the side in the lead sort of goes in their shell for the last 5 minutes. For 75 minutes, this was Northland all the way, and the fact that they only won it by 10 points is, well, in some ways going to be a little bit worrying for them.
Yeah, that is the concern, having that much ball and not being able to put away. Quite a plucky Southland, and I've got to say those two long-range tries were expertly taken as well. Really exciting tries from the Southland boys. So it just shows you that they've got a little bit out wide. But one of the real battles I really enjoyed of this game was between Marty McKenzie and Jack Debrasini with their kicking game. I thought both of them had, excellent kicking games for their respective teams. I thought in terms of players of the day, I had to really think about this one. I thought Jordan Highland looked really dangerous out on the wing, coming from his New Zealand Māori campaign. But my player of the day was actually Josh Goodhue. I thought he handled everything aerially in the air, got his share of line-out ball, and defensively did a lot of work around the paddock. And of course, the skipper Jordan Olsen had a game high of 17 tackles, which is a lot of tackles for a player who was playing in a team that had all the ball pull.
It's a lot of tackles, full stop. I mean, and if you get into double figures, you had a big shift. So to get up to 17, yes, as you say, very big shift by him there in that one. I guess one of the things that basically this kicked off the theme of the weekend. I mean, you just talked about the fact the good handling and the good play by Southland is. The conditions this weekend were wet. They were not fun at all. I'm just glad I got to be undercover for the games I went to. So but the handling and the attacking intent across all the teams was great, especially considering the weather. So yeah, that was definitely one of the big themes of the weekend. And like I say, that kicked off with that one.
It basically featured right across the game. Listen, you could be forgiven if we saw a lot of drops here in the rounds, and you saw the odd sort of drop passing, but like you say, it wasn't just about the rain coming in; it's the ground conditions as well. That dew hangs around. A lot of these matches also night matches, so there's no real time for the grounds to recover. The other sort of exciting thing or theme of the weekend, and we spoke about it before we went to air, it's great to see all these new players come out of the woodwork again. That's the other fantastic thing about it.
Oh, I was going to leave that till the next game, but anyway, yes, it has been. Pretty much every team has had somewhere between 3 and 5 or 3 and 6 kind of debutants playing. I got to talk to at least 3 of them with post-match interviews. So go check the post-match interviews on this channel. I had a chat with the scrum half from Auckland, one of the locks from the blindside flanker from and also then the number 8 from Bay of Plenty. So we've had a whole bunch of debutants. Some of them have played well. A few of them, well, getting found out, obviously. But on the whole, as you were saying, quite a few of them step in. I mean, we're talking. I mean, Danny, who was I've forgotten his surname now. The scrum half for Auckland, and we can move on to that game now. I mean, he only came in at the last minute because Ruru, I think it's Ruru, or was it? Yeah, Jonathan Ruru was sick, and so he wasn't expecting to start. He was expecting to come off the bench. And then he played the full 80 because obviously when you get down to your 3rd or 4th choice scrum half, they're not ready for this level. So he had to play the full 80, and he did it well. And
that's I'm going to say that's Danny Tusitala.
That's right.
Halfback. And I thought he was very tidy in the main pool. For a kid making his debut, didn't seem to have a reasonable high kick game and reasonably good speed of pass. Of course, another sort of weak night in Auckland as well. I think there are a couple of other boys in the harbour side also making their debut. Jared Page, former Counties player who shot away overseas, looked pretty tidy at first 5 for North Harbour. We also saw a boy by the name of I think Ethan Roots from East Coast Bays, the champion North Harbour club, made his debut on the blindside flanker. Looked really, really good. And Tulai at hooker, who basically is filling in for the injured James Parsons. So, once again, a lot of debutants and doing themselves proud.
There were. And one thing about Danny, because of his highlights, he can't hide anywhere either. He's a very easy player to spot on the pitch. Great hair. Loving the hair, Danny, if you're watching. Yes. And for... I was in the press room for this one, and so thank you, Auckland Rugby Union, for giving me the press pass. But one of the things that was being talked about in there was Auckland have had nearly sort of getting on towards about half their squad have been sick or ill this last week, and hence we saw players Ruru dropping out at the last minute and a few others missing as well. So. A whole bunch of players. So yes, this wasn't a full strength team. It wasn't a team that's been able to prepare as well as they'd like to have done either, which probably explains some of the lethargy that we saw from them. They weren't. This wasn't the same side as was playing last year, was it?
Yeah, I actually just thought they were saving all their big guns for Northland, Paul. On Thursday evening, they're obviously a bit concerned, so want to put their best team out. But no, in reality, it was quite an interesting start to this game, because it seemed as though Harbour had that early dominance and had that dominance at scrum time, but it was really, really Auckland whenever they sort of go forward through Hosking Satutu especially. They were able to feed those outside backs that have got so much talent, and I thought TJ Faiani did a great job in terms of straightening the attack. And once again, you see the likes of Caleb Clark and Lamb and Rayasi with ball in hand. They're a dangerous back unit.
They are, and that's something they used in that first half. I mean, Rayasi danced through, and Caleb Clark got the other break as well that led to tries, and that's why they had that 28-14 lead at half time. In the second half, they just didn't use their backs at all. They just seemed to revert to a very much a one-out rugby, not play to their strengths, and allowed Harbour to to come back into it and to dominate the second half, because we didn't really see the backs from Auckland in that second half at all.
It's quite interesting, Paul. This is where we spoke about the handling, and for anybody who was watching that game, it was a very miserable evening in Auckland on Friday. There was a lot of inclement rain, which pretty much came and went, which kept those ground conditions damp on most occasions. And that's where I thought Harbour were really absolutely brilliant in that sort of like that sort of third quarter, shall we say? From the 40th minute through to about the 65th minute, they just held the ball, and they did it brilliantly. Made very few errors, and I think that's where guys up front like Jacob Pearce and Toyota Mariner all came into their own. Taramai all carrying hard into contact, and especially Carl Nukuiafi. I was very impressed with him, especially not just his scrummaging but his ball carrying as well. Paul, he really is a hard man to put down.
He is, and it was those forwards. I mean, Carl got one. Lee bashed over the opposite prop as his propping partner. So yes, it was the props that got in there, into there and did that. Both sides missed a couple of penalties, which is why this one ended up being a draw. And a lot of people at the end of the game were going, "Oh, North Harbour should have come away with the win," but Auckland, to be fair, did play much better. Did have much better the first half, and it wasn't one of those games of two halves. And North Harbour did what was needed on the night in that second half in those wet weather conditions and played it well.
Listen, good game of footy. I know a couple of people sort of mentioned to me over the weekend when it was 28 all and Auckland kicked it straight into touch. Gee, why didn't they go for the win? But really and truthfully, when you haven't seen a lot of the ball and you've got 80 odd metres to put phases together, there's too much risk involved. Harbour probably had, two long-range shots at goal, one from 50 metres from Sean Stevenson and then Jared Page from about 40 metres. But also, I think I put down in my notes around about 10 minutes to go, Harbour got a penalty probably mid 22 and goal line, and they decided to kick for the corner. And I thought at the time, gee, take the points on offer, because up until there, Jared Page had been kicking at 100%. Seemed crazy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, very surprised by that one, and they ended up getting. I mean, they got the try, so well done to them from that one. They I guess in hindsight, the right decision, but at the time, I agree. I was thinking, yeah, take the points, go back down and come back down again. That got them within a score. Yes, I'll tell you, in the press room, myself and the Auckland media, because I was the only person there from the media, but the Auckland Union media people were like, kick it out, what are you doing running it? 80 minutes. You're on your own try line. And I had a chat with Dylan Hunt after the game. You can go check out the interview with him. But he said, he expected them to run the ball then and to try and play to win the game. For me, that just seems nuts to play from your own try line.
I actually suspect from the time that Rayasi got the ball and just kicked it straight in the touch, I think a message must have been relayed out onto the paddock just to get it over the south sideline. You haven't lost the game. You're right out of Dodge with what? Is it 2 points, or do you get 3 points because they scored 4 tries?
3 points because they scored 4 tries. So
4 tries, yeah.
And that's one of the things is that if for some reason the Ice Ten Cup uses a different try bonus point system to Super Rugby. So in this, so it's not, you don't have to win by three tries to get the bonus point. You just have to get 4 tries. So yes, this is the same system as they use in the Gallagher Premiership and the Pro 14 and the Rugby World Cup. So yes, get those 4 tries, get yourself the bonus point. Off you go.
Yeah, only Senzar could be different.
Yeah, I don't know why. Senzar on the top 14 are the two that use this by 3 tries. So interesting. We then moved on from Auckland, who are the present winners, to two of the other teams that we said in pre-season with our pre-season show we're going to be in the playoff picture with Tasman versus Wellington. Thought this was going to be a decent game. In the end, I gave up at half-time because it was all over by then. Tasman absolutely dominant. I mean, some really good play by them. But yeah, this game was all over by half-time. It was I think it was like 26-0 at that point. Great backs, great forwards, working in unison. When you can leave someone like Tafua on the bench, wow.
Yeah, that's handy, isn't it? Not just Tua, but also Pratley. Also, a name not familiar with a lot of people, Isaac Seaman. People go, who? But he was actually selected for the Blues back in 2017, but never got to play through an injury. So he's just returning from injury. And of course, you're right, Tofura on there, and you've also got Tim O'Malley, who's a very experienced player as well, and Leslie Whaianuku also on the bench. So it just shows you what they've got there. But you are so right. We went into the game thinking, oh, listen, these are two teams that are going to be in the playoffs. But I think it might, after watching that performance, might be only one team that's looking to go through to the playoffs, beg your pardon, because Wellington just could not take a trick.
Nope.
And the reason they couldn't take a trick is they just basically weren't allowed to take a trick. The likes of that loose forward trio of Blackadder, Squire, and Havili, and you got Frizzell playing lock, Quinton Strain, Lomax, Makalea. My God, that's a super rugby side. It's ridiculous. Yep. And the very well performed player I've got a bit of time for. They're calling him the next Ryan Crotty, is Alec Nankerville, who's a very, very direct runner. Pretty handy when you got Will Jordan. I'll tell you what, these guys should have to start. Yeah, they should be put on some sort of. We take points off you, sort of some sort of handicap.
They need to be handicapped, absolutely.
Yep.
Tasman made a big statement here that basically they are the team to beat. I mean, people talked about it last year in the press rooms that Tasman were going to be the team to beat, but this season they've come out and they've shown it. Absolutely, everyone is going to be worried about Tasman from now on. They're the big team.
And the great thing about it, they keep the pressure on. Even around about the 55th minute, Havili put a kick down into the corner. Tasman had a very, very quick throw in, and it was like something out of Keystone Cops. The throw went over the top of Garden Bishop's head. Running through was Havili, who was going to tow it ahead, but ended up poking it sideways. So it shot off in basically a leg break direction. One of the Tasman players come through, basically went to dive on the ball and slide in, completely missed it altogether. Poor old Wes the ball.
When Hooson looks up and doesn't pick up the ball and walks away from it. Fast, absolute fast.
It was definitely out of Keystone Cops moments, but we might leave that for another night.
One big question marks around Wellington, particularly around that scrum, and that was what we said pre-season, was they've got a very talented set of backs. They need a platform. They didn't get that here, and looking at some of the other scrums in the Premiership, they're in for a long season if they can't get a platform.
Very, very much so. We saw some, even in the first two games, the Thursday night, we saw a very good Northern scrum. We once again saw a very good Harbour scrum. Auckland, to be fair, came back at them, but all that dominance, they had a little bit of dominance when Marfilio had left the field, but once the likes of Harbour found their feet again, they basically came back at Auckland again at scrum time, and you just saw it again from Tasman. You look at that front row of Tasman, Makaleo, Coxon, and Tyrell Lomax, who's basically an All Black in waiting. He is a very, very big man, very good scrummager.
He is, and talking about scrums, another side that have got a decent scrum is Counties, Manukau. But unfortunately, that's all they've got. Pre-season, I saw them put Wellington scrum and Bay of Plenty's scrum into reverse. Against Taranaki, they did the same thing. They put the Taranaki scrum into reverse quite quickly. But unfortunately, and they've got a whole bunch of offloading backs. It's not just Sonny Bill Williams. That's their style of play for Counties, is they enjoy offloading. The problem is they've got no defence. And they just shipped points.
Yeah, they will be scratching their heads, wondering with that scrum dominance how they lost this game, because really it's sort of once again in damp conditions. Unfortunately for Counties, they didn't quite get that to that 8,000 threshold, Paul. They ran a promotion. If they got 8,000, that 8,000 will basically get free season tickets for the rest of the season. But credit to the Counties Union, they the ones that did turn up, the 4,500 that did turn up, basically you could buy a half price ticket for the rest of the season. And listen, fantastic promotion, good on them. Listen, I don't think the weather was on their side on the weekend.
No,
probably
it wasn't.
A lot of punters decided to basically stay at home. But I thought one area where I thought that the real difference was in the halves, Paul, where Te Toiroa Tahuarangi and Daniel Waite in the 9 and 10 jersey for the Naki, I reckon they pretty much controlled this game.
They did, but the other thing you've also got with this Naki side is with a back three of Wainui, Sean Wainui, actually he might have been playing at 13, but anyway, Sean Wainui, Naholo and Potros, those three guys can counter-attack. Potros might not be a name you recognise, but he was playing at 15, and he's a very good player. With those guys counter-attacking, you've got to be very accurate with your kicks. Counties weren't. And Taranaki could have run out better, but their line-out just misfired. And they gave up so much ball that way. So one of those things where, Taranaki managed to win this one without having any set piece.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. It probably says a lot also about I thought their loose forwards, both the Boucher brothers and Sawakula, did enough to get them over the advantage line. Interesting, you mentioned Potrose. I was trying to figure out how to say his second name, so I just started calling him Potrose. But Potrose is an interesting guy. He's actually got more hair on his chin than he has on his head. Saw him running around for the Taranaki. See, we can actually have a crack at anybody on this show. Sorry,
that's absolutely.
Interesting guy, Potrose. I actually saw him playing for the Taranaki Sevens team, so he's obviously got a lot of flair, and you could just see the flair. And I thought one of the really good things that he did was link well. Didn't try to take on people, just looked for space and was able to get the likes of Naholo and Ormond basically in a lot of space. But I'll tell you what, the try I enjoyed the most was the scrum. Taranaki had a scrum on the Counties Manukau 22, probably about 15 or 20 in from touch, and a nice little flick between the legs from, I think it was Tahuarangi.
Yes.
Who flicked it to Waite, who drew the last man and sent Ormond in for a try. God, that was well executed. That was rugby at its best, Paul.
It was. One of the players call out Iliao, I think it is the Steelers number 8. Big guy, looks like he's a powerful player. Unfortunately, just needs to be a bit careful with some of his tackles. They were getting a bit high, but apart from that, I think he was a good player as well.
Yeah, there's one that comes to mind. I think he almost decapitated some guy in the 22, and I thought at the time he might be in a little bit of strife. Listen, I'll give credit to the skipper Henwood. I think he tried pretty much all day and was there or thereabouts. But once again, just really not taking opportunity. Taking their real opportunities with their chances, and probably the back three were just a little bit too quiet. For me, Sonny Bill Williams, listen, he gets a tick in the box from me. Couple of offloads where he really didn't need to offload. They were just in tricky situations. But man alive, when he decides to put the hammer down and hit the button, because he still has that pace over, good pace over 15, 20 metres, Paul.
Absolutely. And one of the I've seen him play a few times now this season, because I've seen him. I was there when he turned out for Ponsonby in the club game. I saw him pre-season at Kirikiri for the game of three halves, and I saw him tonight. The big difference tonight was this was a competitive game that he was competing in, whereas the other games he was there to get match fitness, and he didn't really. He was being careful with himself. Whereas I think what he's turned the corner with in this game was he was really taking on the line. He was really putting his body into the tackles, and he really was. His heart and soul was in this game. Whereas I don't think he really was in those other games because they were warm-ups or they were club games. But this one, I think that's to me, Sonny Bill, as you say, gets a tick because, and I think he took a big step forward on his match fitness. Yeah,
would have been interesting. He actually he read an intercept from round about his own 22, and he just basically spilt it. But I thought that would have been quite interesting, Paul, to see if he would have run the.
If he would have made it
about 70 odd metres, so that would have been a really good sprint. Hey, one other little thing from this game as well. We sort of often talk about some of our unions who don't always develop their own talent or maybe go outside their union. It was interesting to see Chris Kurandrani and Andrew Callaway, a couple of boys who have Kurandrani, who's played over a bit of Super Rugby for the Brumbies, and Callaway from the New South Wales Waratahs. I thought Kurandrani did well. It took Callaway a little bit of a while to find his feet, but when he did find a little bit of space, he looked pretty good.
Yes, and Callaway is a player that's went over to, obviously was with the Brumbies, went over to the UK, played for the Northampton Saints for a season, and now he's coming back. And he was thinking about whether to take a break before he joins the Rebels, or whether he'd come and play this. And he said once this opportunity came up, he had to come and play this to get some good game time. Get some good practice in, because this is a good competition. So it is interesting, as you say, those players are there, and that's another theme that came out for me this weekend is the number of players that are coming into Mitre 10 Cup as an opportunity to rebuild or give their career another chance. We saw that against in the next game, so Waikato versus Canterbury. I had an interview with I've gone blank. His surname's Burr, but I've forgotten what his first name is. But he's a Scottish kid. Lost his academy contract in Scotland, so came down here, played for Hautape, which is where I've gone blank. Luke Jacobson's club. So, and also winners of the Waikato Premiership competition this year, and he's got himself a place now in the Waikato squad, starting at 6. So probably actually getting a place because Jacobson is no, hang on, John Jacobson, is away with the All Blacks. So it is interesting that it's him. There was also playing for Bay of Plenty, ex-Leicester Tigers, ex-Gloucester player, who is now heading back at the end of the Mitre 10 Cup season to play for Coventry, which is in the Championship, so second division in England. So there's a number of players who aren't getting the contracts they want in Europe and are seeing this as an opportunity to come and play a bit of rugby, get some experience, and also get some exposure as well to get extra contracts. There was an Ospreys player who came over for and played some club rugby for Otrahonga, and is now with Leicester Tigers. So we are seeing more of those guys come over here, and they're not coming over for the money, but they're coming over for the experience and for the game time.
Yep, interesting that not only just players as well, but also we've seen a weekend where we've seen a couple of overseas referees, and we'll get to them in a moment. Obviously, I kept a close eye on those officials. The fellow on who refereed the Waikato Canterbury game, I sort of thought in the main he had a good game. I thought he might have, him and his officials, I don't always blame the referee sometimes. There was one that looked like it was a huge forward pass. It looked quite forward out of the hand, but they were looking at a touchdown in the corner. But I just think sometimes like that you could probably do with a little bit of help from his ARs. Dan
Jones got lucky with that one because the player got caught in touch. But yes, that was a shocking forward pass. So I have on for my supporters only. So over at patreon.com/DrivingMaul, I have a behind the scenes video coming out on Thursday where I've talked to both Dan Jones and I've gone blank as to the Irish referee, because he refereed the Bay of Plenty Otago game the following day. So I've got interviews with both of those guys. And it's kind of interesting to see why they're over here and what they're like and what their kind of week is like when they're back home in Wales and Ireland. So become a Patreon supporter of Driving Maul, and you can get access to that video. That comes out on Thursday.
Paul, I was going to say we should probably touch upon this game as well, because once again, when I was watching the early exchanges and watching
which game is this then? Which one?
The Canterbury.
Yes, no, that's what I was about to talk about next. Exactly. Yeah, Waikato Canterbury is next. Go on.
Yeah, just when I saw the Waikato scrum going back at a rate of knots, and of course Canterbury got the early try. I thought it was going to be an absolutely long night from the men from Hamilton, but listen, credit to them. They barred up just when it seemed like Canterbury were going to basically we're going to take control of this game. Back come Waikato with 2 tries to Josefa Scott and the outstanding Quinton Tupaia.
Absolutely, yeah. They kept themselves in it in the first half, which let's be honest, Canterbury had the upper hand in, and then in the second half, Waikato just took control of the game and didn't let Canterbury have the ball, which was how they won this one. Canterbury only got 1 score in the second half to 3 by the Mooloos. Burr, the guy I was talking about, running a good supporting line, got a try there, and where you saw teams take control of games in the second half and dominate, it often dominated territory, and it often wasn't via kicking, which is interesting. It was about getting the breaks, ball retention, keep the ball in hand, and starve the opposition of ball. And it's something obviously we saw in the Bledisloe Cup as well. But definitely another one of those themes this weekend was that sides, particularly in the second half, would come out and then keep hold of the ball and not let the opposition get it. And that's what Waikato did very well there, and just didn't let Canterbury back into the game.
And once again, I thought real difference in the halves again. I thought Stratton and Smith were actually quite superb, which is a little bit of a surprise when you got 2 All Blacks in the 9 and 10 jersey for Canterbury. I thought they probably outplayed the more illustrious pair, shall we say. But a player I really enjoyed watching, because he's not the biggest number 8 around, but Mariiti I think he's from the Oklahoma Sports Club. Paul, he runs with a bit of venom, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And this Andre makes a good point here that Waikato look like they're enjoying themselves. They look like a happy team out there. And I think he has got that, which this was a game that Waikato had no right to win. Okay, they're up against the team that's won this competition 8 times in the last 10 years, beaten finalists last year. They got promoted. They've got 12 players missing. Now, 3 of those are because of All Blacks that they wouldn't have had: Luke Jacobson, Anson Brown, Damon McKenzie. But the other 10 are injured players already. They had what? You have 7 players on your bench, is it? Or 6? No, 6 players on your bench. 5 of those were debutants for Waikato. Waikato had no right to be able to take the second half away from Canterbury with such a inexperienced bench, but they did it. And Andre says, "Yeah, this does look like a happy team. This looks like a team that's going the right way." I was very worried for them coming into this game, to be honest.
I think we spoke about that in the preview show last week. With so many injuries, we thought they would struggle. But I think this was probably the result of the weekend, Paul. Maybe pretty close to that Auckland Harbour result as well. That's an upset of sorts. I don't know what either won or lost the game, but Auckland were probably expected. You would have given them 12 and over to win that game, but for Waikato to show so much heart in this game was pretty impressive. Listen, we must put a little asterisk beside this. I'm sort of looking at this Canterbury team. Even they had a few new guys out there as well. Punivai, Gilbert on the wings. A few guys I haven't heard of. Poi Hippie, the second 5, and I see they've got a few young guys from the New Zealand 20s as well. Grace, who was the partner for Luke Romano, and I see the boy Fergus Burke on the bench. I think he was the first 5 for the New Zealand 20s this year.
Yeah, and okay, hat tip also to Mitch Drummond and Tim Bateman for their 50th caps in this game for Canterbury. So congratulations to those 2 guys. Remember, they only play 10 games plus finals each year, so getting to 50 takes takes some doing. So that was a good one. McKay, the 15, also this another 15 who had a really cracking game, scored 2 tries. He was one that was disallowed because he just put his foot in touch as well. So he had a cracking game for Canterbury. But a player that you will be hearing a lot of, Quinton Tupaia. Have I got that right?
Quinton Tupaia.
Tupaia, sorry.
Close.
The reason I can't get his pronunciation right is because in the press box everyone just calls him Quinn. So I never actually get to hear his surname being said. But yeah, Quinton Quinn. He definitely showed up Tim Bateman in this game, got the better of his more illustrious opposition. A lot of good breaks and scored. Was part of the Chiefs setup this year, but because he's under 20s, he wasn't allowed to play for the Chiefs. He could only play for the under 20s. They get the New Zealand Rugby says they can only play for one or the other. So he was training with the Chiefs, but playing with the under 20s, and he's a player that you will be seeing a lot more of in the future. So yes, expect to see him playing for the Chiefs next year. So yeah, congratulations there. Next up, I travelled over to Tauranga to watch Bay of Plenty versus Otago, and one of the things you talked about this was weather, and I wanted to have a quick chat about grounds actually in this one, with the exception of the teams that play in Super Rugby locations, so Auckland, Waikato, Wellington, Canterbury. Actually, Canterbury probably might even apply for as well, and Otago. Every other ground pretty much has one covered stand, and the rest of the ground is open. And so when you get wet weekends like this, you aren't going to get big crowds because there isn't anywhere to hide from the rain in those places. So Toll Stadium, for example, has got one, which is where we'll be on Thursday night for the Northland. Has got the main stand with a cover, and then it's an open bowl with lovely grass bank. Exactly the same for Waikato. Not Waikato, sorry, gone blank. Counties.
Counties Rotorua.
County Rotorua, but also Northern Harbour Stadium again has got one big stand and then an open bowl. So yeah, weather like this will impact the attendances. I wouldn't worry too much about attendances this weekend for some of these games. So yes, Bay of Plenty versus Otago, 57. Wow. This one this is a result I did not see coming. Had a chat with the head coach afterwards, and again you can check that out, the interview here on my YouTube channel. He was like, maybe not the scoreline, but he was expecting the result. They were playing well pre-season, and if you remember last season, we know they didn't. Their poor performances were down to injuries. They don't have an injured squad this season. They've got a couple of injuries. I mean, everybody has, but they're not. But not the same way as last year. And wow, we are seeing them. We saw here a very strong scrum, a very strong line-out maul, and a good kicker. And when you put those three together, that leads to points. And hey, they had the bonus point tied up by half-time. I think all four of the tries were scrum that led to a penalty, that they kicked to the corner, that they did a line-out maul, that they scored from. Bang. Very well done by Bay of Plenty. And Otago, wow, this is a wake-up call for them.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Once again, this was a game that was over pretty much before half time, and another common theme, another team that struggled at scrum time, and boy did they struggle. Actually, I was really surprised that a yellow card wasn't pulled out by the official, Paul, to one of the Otago front rowers. I mean, so big ups to that Bay of Plenty front row of Thwaites, Nathan Harris and Aidan Ross. They were just so dominant, and just with that hard-working pack of Warlaw and Carroll, and they have a big number 8. I saw you doing your interview beside him, and Paul, I must admit you look like a jockey standing beside Papali. Very big guy, gets a lot of go forward. He'll enjoy playing in the boot of that pack.
Absolutely. Ex-league player has spent, so that's where he's come from. So he's 25. So he's a matured athlete coming into here, unlike some of the debutants who are kind of like in their teens and still growing. He's a big boy, carries very well, as you'd expect a leaguey to do. But as he admitted in the interview, needs to get his fitness up because as a prop in league, he definitely didn't play the full 80 minutes.
and listen, mate, and you spoke about Holland's Head with his good goal kicking, Judd with his distribution, but I'll tell you what, the architect for me is the guy at the back, Chase Tiatia. He just knows when to run, when to kick. You saw a couple of times there, he was isolated. It would have been easy to just have a run. He decided to drop it onto he's got a pretty big left boot, hasn't he? So he'd send it pretty long, and I think it's going to be some exciting times if you're a Steamers supporter, especially with their two wingers who look full of running, Fuatai and Narawa look like damaging runners. And, of course, you got New Zealand's 7 centre, Joe Webber there. That's pretty handy, isn't it?
It is a handy side, and I say one that I was not expecting to take apart a Ranfurly Shield owning team in this way. You got to remember, I guess, though, that Otago missing players like Matt Fadders was their captain last year. He's not around anymore, etc. So yeah, I think Otago. They had Henry Purdy on the wing over from Gloucester, and again, so another one of these teams that, as you say, has had to reach out the region to try and fill up their squad.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably starting to tell with this Otago side that they are perhaps 1 or 2 players short of what they'd really want. And then without Josh Ioane pulling the strings, they need him back big time.
Yeah, very much so. There, Koroi obviously started into first 5. A couple of ugly mistakes you could have done without. Once you've had a try scored against you, the last thing you want to be doing is kicking it directly over the sideline and heading back to a scrum. Listen, there probably wasn't too much to shout about for the men from the south, but I thought Dylan Nell and James Lynch's especially tried really hard, but they were pretty well beaten at the end of the day.
They were. Final game of the round and was Manawatu versus Hawke's Bay, and it's a story you're going to have heard of already with this one, which is basically Hawke's Bay's scrum outmuscled Manawatu in wet conditions and won the game. Hawke's Bay's all their tries came from line-out mauls, apart from one that was bashed out, was bashed over from like 2 metres out. Manawatu. I think again one of those things we mentioned in our pre-season show was Manawatu's scrum is going to struggle. They don't have many names in there. It looks a bit lightweight, and they got it working over by Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, they think about it. For the Turbos, they actually started well. They scored a brilliant try from about 60 odd metres out, finished off by Northcote, converted by Teddy Black. But then slowly Hawke's Bay hit back straight away with a try to Brendan O'Connor. Great to see the former Blues man, former Leicester Tigers flanker back in New Zealand rugby, and he was a constant menace at breakdown for the Hawke's Bay. But once again, the theme was you could just see that through that first half. Basically, I think the Turbos probably needed to go to half time with at least a good 12 or 15 point break to have won this game, but in reality, because they were getting pinged at scrum all day, they just couldn't really do a thing. And it was a concerted forward effort, not just from the beginning, but right at the end. They were still pretty much, I think, the very last play of the game. Once again, the Turbo scrum was dominated. And a player that I basically want to highlight, because he's not a big tight, not a very big tight head prop at all. I think he's a former Wellington prop, but Joel Hintz, who's a former powerlifter, and if he's 110 k's dripping wet, I'd be very, very surprised. But not a big tight head prop at all. But both himself and also New Zealand Māori representative Periraka Te Stones on that loose head side. And along with, once again, the very experienced Ash Dixon, boy, they did a number on that Manawatu team. Not the worst either. That front row, Lesiawa, Stewart, and Fraser Armstrong, who played for the Highlanders this year. So not the worst, but man alive, it's going to be a long season for the Turbos if they can't get that scrub right.
Yep, absolutely. So that's how the last round went, folks. The big themes there were the good handling in wet conditions, the debutantes that we saw, and also seeing some of the foreign players come over. A very quick look at the table, because obviously we've only had one round of games, but already we can see that Tasman, obviously with that big win atop of the table, top of the Premiership, with Waikato in there, Auckland and North Harbour, and with Canterbury counties picked up 2 points, and finally Wellington down there on 0. So those 2 points, you can see people picking up, I say, a lot of tries, so lots of try bonus points in there. Wellington probably one of the few teams not to have picked that up. Tasman, where we expect them to be, and I can't see them dropping back from there much during that Premiership. Into the Minor 10 Cup, Bay of Plenty, obviously with that 50-point win, go top. Hawke's Bay, Taranaki, Northland, all those 4 teams I think are going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. Southland and Manawatu both, so we expect to be down the bottom there. And Otago probably as well now, having seen how they went against Bay of Plenty, are probably going to struggle too. So I think there's going to be very much a divide of the top 4 and bottom 3 in that championship. So let's start looking forward to next week. Let's run through them quickly. So Thursday night, you and I will both be up in Whangarei at Toll Stadium for Northland versus Auckland. I'm expecting Auckland here to come up. I've gone Auckland by 10. I think Northland's, whilst they got the win over Southland, didn't put in the best performance.
I agree, Paul. I think you'll find it'll be a very grumpy Auckland team. They'll be coming north grumpy about the fact that they let a 14-point lead slip at halftime. A couple of little issues for Northland as well. They picked up another 2 serious sort of injuries to blindside flanker Sam McNamara, and also Kane Jacobson. Feels very sorry for him because he's been out through most of the club season via HIA, and he only really came back into it 2 weeks ago, but he was carried off. Haven't heard too much news on that injury at that stage, so all of a sudden they've had to bring another 2 loose forwards up from the development side, and also they're sweating on the likes of Aorangi Stokes, the number 8, who was also taken off with an HIA as well. The only little bit of good news they have is maybe Dan Hawkins might be available for this game. I can probably see a few of the heavyweights probably rolling back into this Auckland team as well. I would imagine Jonathan Rudu, if he's recovering, would probably slot back into that 9 jersey, and we'll probably see Akira Ioane as well, Paul. Yeah,
I definitely see Akira Ioane. He was available for this game, but they told him to take a week off to get just to get himself in the right the right frame of mind, the right fitness. They didn't want to rush him back into this one. He did finish the Super Rugby season absolutely knackered. So yes, he'll be back for that game as well. Then I will be on Friday night. I'll be at North Harbour versus Counties Manukau. As we saw, Counties are going to have to improve their defence. Their scrum isn't going to be enough because that North Harbour scrum is decent. So I'm expecting North Harbour to take a comfortable win there as well. Yeah, I've gone Harbour by 7. Sorry. Yep. Yeah,
I think Harbour would have taken a lot of confidence out of that game. It'll just be interesting to see how Sione Mafilio left the field quite early. Sean Stevenson looked to be hobbling around a little bit in the second half, but I think so. I think expect this North Harbour team to have gained a lot of confidence as well. And like I said, I do like the look of their first 5, Jared Adams as well. Seems like he knows how to run, drive the team around in the right places. So I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here. I'm going to go Harbour by 12 and over.
Ooh. Hawke's Bay versus Wellington. Now I've got Wellington by 7, but the more I think about it, the more we've talked about it, the more I'm getting worried about that, because Hawke's Bay's forwards did a job on Manawatu, and we know that's where Wellington's weakness is. But Wellington should be a class above Manawatu, so I've got Wellington by 7. But I say not. The more I think about it, the less confident I get.
I'm gonna go the other way around, not through any sense of loyalty or anything like that. But I think I think Hawke's Bay just showed enough. I think they really only did what they had to do, and they've got the likes of Ash Dixon, a man of the match performance yesterday against the Turbos, and I think they're just firing nicely. But the player, I think they've got such a good loose forward trio as well at the moment, and Gareth Evans is running the ship quite well. Just probably Whakatava, I just think he's got to choose his options carefully. Paul, he's a very good halfback, very promising halfback, but he's got to remember he can't play the game on his own.
Yep. We then have Manawatu versus hosting Taranaki. Taranaki by 15. I mean, they saw off Counties the weekend, and Manawatu look, but don't even look to have the scrum either. So, I think comfortable away win there for the Bulls.
Yeah, I'm sad to say, got a few friends down that way, and also some family, but I think the Turbos will struggle once again unless they can basically address that set piece issue. No question, they've actually got some firepower out wide, but you've got to have ball and you've got to have your set piece right.
Yep. Then we have Otago versus Southland. This is the Ranfurly Shield one. Now, a lot of people after that Otago game are thinking that Southland have actually got a chance to win this one. Now, I don't think any of us would have said that pre-season or prior to this. So I've got Otago by 5. I can't see. As much as they had a really poor game, I think at home with a Shield on the line, I think they'll get up on this one.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure who's coaching Otago this year, but I think they will get probably an absolute firecracker stuck under the mat training this week, Paul. And I think they will bounce back. I think Southland will play with a lot of heart. Don't underestimate them, though, because they can score tries from anywhere, as they showed last Thursday. And that's probably their only real chance to have an absolute crack. One thing they will have on their side, it'll be dry conditions, it'll be played under the roof.
True.
So in that respect, we should see a good open game. But I'm with you, Paul. I'm picking Otago to bounce back. Now I'll go 12 and over. It won't be easy.
Then Canterbury, Tasman. I've gone Tasman by 5, and perhaps I should go by more. But that performance by Tasman at the weekend, they are the team to beat. But travelling to Christchurch is never easy. Hence, I've gone by 5. But are you going 12 and under or 12 or over for that one?
Yeah. Actually, just sort of looking at these games, boy, we've got apart from the North and Auckland game, Battle of the Blues brothers, the Manawatu Taranaki, Battle of the Canes brothers, Otago South, and Battle of the Highlanders brothers, and in this game it's Battle of the Crusaders brothers, isn't it?
Yep.
Listen, Tasman's form's irresistible. I just think they'll be too good all around, and there's not a lot of love lost between these two provinces, Paul. So I'm picking the mark off to do a number on Canterbury, but 12 and under.
12 and under, yep. Okay. And then finally, Bay of Plenty versus Waikato in Rotorua. I will be there for that game as well. The Chiefs Cup will be on the line for this one, I believe. I've gone Waikato by 5. Yes, Bay of Plenty put up a very good performance at the weekend, but Waikato did very well to get over Canterbury's side, and I think that's comparing Otago to Canterbury is something you just can't do, and hence I'm going Waikato by 5 for that one. Oh,
that's an interesting. We're going to have to GPS you at the end of the season, Paul, with all this travelling you're going to be doing around the North Island, should I say? Bay of Plenty, Waikato. I tell you what, this Bay of Plenty team is playing with a bit of confidence, and I know Waikato did very, very well the other night, but I am going to go with the Steamers in a very close one.
Cool. Yep. As Andre says, this will be a cracker to watch. It will be a cracking game on Sunday. As I say, I'll be there. So obviously, post-match interviews will be coming to you from Northland versus Auckland, North Harbour versus Counties, Manukau, and Bay of Plenty versus Waikato. So yes, that's my schedule for this weekend. If you're at any of those games, then please do say hello. And if you'd like to help me pay for some of that petrol, head over to patreon.com/DrivingMaul and become a supporter of the site. There'll be exclusive pieces. I'll be talking about, for your ears only this Wednesday, about players jumping into tackles, because that's something we saw definitely at the weekend. And whilst taking players out in the air from a kick is one thing, taking them out from a pass, I think maybe should be treated differently. So get my opinions on that on Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining me, Stephen.
No, not a problem. Been a privilege and a pleasure, like I said at the beginning. And if you want to look out for some of my tweets, I'm on @Stephen73_H. So have a look. And Paul, you don't have to worry about paying for petrol on Thursday evening, because I'll be paying for it, mate.
Thank you. I've still got to get up to Auckland as well, and they haven't put the high-speed train in yet, unfortunately. So there we go. So I've got to drive up there. But thank you, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow night with the House Rugby Chat as well, where Ashwin will be joining me, and we'll be going over all the Rugby World Cup warm-up games. And then on Wednesday night, Herman and Michael Pullman will join me for the All Blacks edition, where we will obviously dissect that Bledisloe Cup game and look forward to Bledisloe Cup 2 as well. So join me over the next 2 evenings. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.